Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Manino and Nareman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hey guys, I'm Nareman Hamden, and this is Driven Unscripted Success podcast. You can follow us and subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. We've got an awesome guest on today. We have Dr. Paola Ballester. She is a pediatrician. She's a board-certified pediatrician with over a decade of clinical and administrative leadership. She brings a deep understanding of utilization and management, in revenue cycle optimization in healthcare operations. She is also she has co-founded EasyPA, which is a healthcare technology company using AI to modernize the prior authorization and appeals process. How are you doing, Paula?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. It's nice to have you on. Where are you zooming in from?
I am in St. Petersburg, Florida.
Such a beautiful place.
Yes.
I used to go up there with my family and kids for Christmas every year over to
really?
Trade Winds, right on us.
Oh, yeah. We've got it all here in St. Pete. We've got beach, we've got city, we've got it all. So it's a great, the Tampa Bay area is a great place to be.
That you do. So why don't you give us a quick snapshot of your business right now, what you do and what your company does, etc.
Fabulous. So EasyPA was founded by myself and two co-founders. Two of us are physicians, and for the past decade have been kind of seeing that constant struggle that not only healthcare teams have in trying to secure prior authorization for their patient, right? If we back up a quick second, basically when patients need a procedure, a surgery, a test, they have to ask permission from their insurance. So that's what a prior authorization is. And for most of the listeners out there, I'm sure you've either been a patient or had a loved one or family member that's a patient and have had to go to through that process where you kind of have to wait to get permission from your insurance company. So, over year, we just kind of grew frustrated with seeing our patients have to wait and have delays in getting the necessary care that they need. Families super frustrated, patients deteriorating, their conditions getting worse, suffering, right? And we really just grew frustrated. And so myself and my physician co-founder, Dr. Ralph Martello, teamed up with our CTO and co-founder, Alex Vega, who is a genius of all things software engineering, AI, ML. And we sat down and really said, how the heck can we fix this? Because the system right now is very archaic by design. The healthcare teams that are trying to request this, permission and the prior authorization from healthcare insurance companies have to do many different processes: fax machines, snail mail, phone calls, portal hop to different insurance portals, all to just request permission to move forward with the necessary plan of care. And so we are trying to streamline that process. And rather than clinics having to kind of fight uphill against the system, we have built a tool that integrates into their electronic health record if they are utilizing an electronic health record, because most practices do. Some practices still have kind of paper charts and paper records. We can help them with a web-based solution as well. And it really just centralizes the entire process into one place. Orders drive automation to get those prior authorizations submitted without even needing to have a physical person touch that, so you can get the process started without delay. You can get feedback with the payers that are already moving forward technology-wise to have that interchange via, API and via those types of solutions, and really trying to reduce that friction, reduce that wait time. And then if denials are received, because often the insurance company will say either, hey, we need more information, we're not ready to make a decision yet on whether or not your patient can receive this care, or they flat out say, no, we don't find that this is necessary. And so then the docs and their teams really have to struggle to justify why it is necessary. They either have to have these phone calls with the insurance company where a doc from the physician office and a doc from the insurance company kind of have a quick chat to say, hey, why is this needed? or the docs have to write a full-on letter and kind of justify. And that takes a lot of time. And it's really frustrating for not only physicians, but their staff, most importantly, not to mention the patients, right? And so we're trying to streamline that, put it all in one place, use AI and really sophisticated series of models to really help pull not only the insurance policy contracts, but pulling, evidence-based literature from PubMed to support, this is why this care is needed, this is why it's necessary, and doing that in a matter of seconds rather than hours.
Right.
And the process overall can take weeks. It can take months sometimes.
Sure.
And so we're really trying to help reduce that friction with the tool that we built.
That's fantastic. I recently had a doctor on from the other side of the state, and
Yeah.
his office. So it's a one-stop shop, is what he's basically building, and he can do an MRI in there.
Oh, nice.
And so what he does is he does surgery on arms and wrists.
Orthopedics.
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
perfect.
orthopedics. Thank you. So, and he specializes specifically just in those limbs, and he figured out a way. Okay, I can have an MRI station over here and do this that to make it a one stop and just to help the patients quickly get their surgery done,
Right.
therapy, all of it. But the problem he's having is exactly what you're talking about, is the
There you
insurance.
go.
And his staff is telling the insurance, well, we have the MRI machine right here. We've got the person there to set it up, the tech, everything. So, but they have to approve
Yeah.
their MRI, and which takes weeks to months when
It's wild.
it's right there in his office, and
It's
that's
right
what he's
there.
working on, doing some sort of change. So this is
Yeah. I'll
interesting.
have to connect with him.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, the thing that's kind of wild as a physician that's been practicing now for 14 plus years, right? We're all trained. We go to years of school. We do years of training to know what is best for our patients.
Right.
And, if you really look at the incidence of fraud in physicians just doing wild, outlandish things that are just absolutely inappropriate, it's exceptionally low. But our system is built in this guilty until proven innocent model where
Yes.
everything has to go through the prior authorization process to detect the few that are not appropriate, rather than entrusting physicians and of course there's bad actors in every industry, right? I would
Sure.
never pretend otherwise, but why can't we focus on those few that are doing things incorrectly, rather than punishing all patients and making them
Absolutely.
wait and suffer? So, I think the good thing is there is change coming. That's the exciting thing for us, and why we're really excited about this opportunity to help practices and physicians just like the one you just mentioned, because the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services has issued a mandate basically for modernization, right? The prior authorization landscape in healthcare and the technology around it has not changed in decades. And, for the love of all things holy, we're still using fax machines. Like our
Right.
CTO, when we were explaining the problem to him, he was cracking up because he's like, you've got to be kidding me. You guys are still literally using fax machines.
Right.
And we're like, that is it.
Yeah.
It's wild. So the Center for Medicare and Medicaid Services has issued a mandate that, the payers have to modernize. We have to start transmitting electronically. And they're required to do that by January 1st of 2027. So that's coming faster than we realize, right? And so the payers will be kind of forced to comply, at least those that are, Medicare and Medicaid Advantage, and Medicare's now joining in the prior authorization landscape too. But, who's helping the docs? And the docs are the ones that are helping the patients. So at the end of the
Right.
day,
Absolutely.
our mission is really to help the patients. We just want them to get the care they need quickly, efficiently, and that healthcare teams shouldn't have to burn out and struggle just to do their jobs, right?
Yeah.
And so we're really excited that this change is coming. The timing's perfect. So we're really excited about kind of helping practices, especially, just like the one you mentioned, to get back to doing what they're supposed to do, which is help patients, provide care.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So let me ask you this. When you think back, are there any moments that you'd say really changed the game for your career?
I had a non-traditional journey into medicine. Both of my parents are physicians, and so, neither of them ever put the expectation on me to go into healthcare at all. I always thought that I would, but then when I got to undergrad, I went in a different direction. I was really moved, and thinking I was going to shift into public health. Columbine happened when I was in college, and it really moved me to want to kind of study and understand how those things happen and how we can help prevent them from happening. And as I was kind of figuring out life, I started working for an insurance company after I graduated with my undergrad degree in sociology. And for 4 or 5 years, I worked in insurance, and I worked on the auto accident side, which was really interesting. And kind of was doing medical claims and understanding everything, through that lens of the insurance side of things. And, then I realized, like, at the end of the day, what I really cared about was I wanted to be the one helping the patients, not rubber stamping claims and rejections and approvals and, that side of it. But I really wanted to help patients. So I went back to med school, 4 or 5 years after graduating undergrad. So I was one of the old ladies in my class. And, as I was there and, I always loved kids, and my lens of, and my passion and kind of what motivated me to want to help people was really helping kids specifically. So, it's no surprise I ended up in pediatrics. And, as I was kind of navigating the early stages of my career and kind of figuring out where I was going to fit in and where I was going to make my mark and try to really help drive positive change forward, I was, approached, to consider an opportunity to help in our utilization management, case management, and those departments within a healthcare system really are the ones that help navigate insurance. And so their utilization management, we have to kind of talk to the insurance companies throughout a hospitalization to say, hey, this is why the patient needs to be here. This is why they're still here.
Sure.
And case management are kind of the unsung heroes at the front line that are helping to coordinate getting patients safely home and making sure that they have all the resources they have in place to safely go home and safely stay home. And so I think my background in insurance, even though it was in auto claims and, completely felt very left field at the time, kind of came back and really helped me to find that, I would venture to say that a vast majority of physicians would rather do anything than deal with insurance. They don't like
Right. Sure.
dealing with that bureaucracy and having those phone calls and having to deal with that stress. But I think my background kind of helped me be a pretty good fit for that role. And so then this with, EasyPA has been a really natural progression, because at the heart of it, I feel like, I am still through and through a patient advocate and someone that really believes that all people should have access to healthcare, quality healthcare. There shouldn't be barriers. Money should not be a barrier.
Absolutely.
Profits shouldn't be a barrier. And so it's been really cool to kind of just, go through and now start my journey into entrepreneurship and learning all about that side. But
It's
really,
so much fun, isn't it?
oh, wow. It
So
is
much fun. The roller coaster of
fun.
entrepreneurship.
There are definitely a lot of fun days. It is a grind, I think.
Yes.
That for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest grinds, and you have to constantly just be on top of your game, in the sense of, even you're not going to have the best day all the time. It's a roller coaster. Some days are going to be amazing and things all go well, and the next day it's crash and burn. And it's all about having that discipline and mindset of, you just got to keep pushing through and grinding.
Yeah.
Because once you hit it, you hit it.
Yeah,
It takes a while to get there, but boy, is that the most rewarding thing ever. And,
absolutely.
and it's like, and you learn the trials and tribulations along the way of the mental gauntlet of just grinding,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, and just pushing through. So, what's a skill or habit you think doesn't get enough credit for contributing to your success?
I think grit, you hit it, right? We know that, if you go on LinkedIn, for example, you go on the internet, you can find the answer to that question in 7,000 different flavors. But I think kind of grit and that persistence, that vision, that ability to dial in and stay laser focused on the outcome rather than letting the daily ups and downs and ebbs and flows kind of knock you off kilter, I think I think that's really critically important. Some people may call it like stubbornness, and that's definitely something that um, I have been accused of, I'm a Scorpio. I can be stubborn as they
Yeah,
come, but I think I like to flip that and call it grit, right? It's like, I'm passionate. If I believe in something, if I see something that I think is wrong or I see something that I think is right, I'm going to keep pushing and I'm not going to just roll over or
sure.
be the
Yeah,
yes girl or yes woman, that sometimes are expected to be when you're in certain positions.
sure.
Um,
Yeah, I
so I
mean,
definitely think grit, and I'm like I said, I like to flip the stubbornness into grit, but that's what I think is gonna ensure that we're successful, kind of moving forward. Is that all three, myself and my other two co-founders, all really have that.
which is fantastic, and that's what it takes to get things done, especially with what you're doing. I mean, you're taking on the insurance companies more or less, and that's
Yeah,
that's just it. That's an entire like different beast on its own.
yeah. I
So
mean,
yeah,
we definitely, I will be the first to admit that I do think that the current system is intentionally set up to be difficult so that, we all know, that insurance companies will intentionally deny things because any delayed payment kind of allows them to pocket that money and turn profit, right? So
right,
I consider myself a very transparent person and I'm going to call it like it is, right? I think we see that, but we do hope that going forward, like we don't want to in any way position ourselves as being adversarial with insurance companies because we really need partnership with them. We want to build
sure,
this so that it works for them just as much as it works for patients and practices. Like there's really no reason that this process has to be so incredibly difficult and cumbersome. So I'm hopeful that this kind of new regulatory tailwind is going to really help there be a more collaborative environment so that we can, design mutually beneficial solutions so that we can get patients the care they need timely. That's really
yeah.
what it amounts to.
Absolutely. It's like they're stuck in this like 1902 protocol of just pushing
Called it.
papers just to push the papers for
Right.
the sake of pushing the papers because there's
You got it.
steps to things.
Yeah.
The steps are so backwards and
Yeah.
just not efficient whatsoever for anyone and especially the patients.
Absolutely.
So
That's
it's
that's
it's
it.
it's mind blowing. I completely understand. I mean, for example, like I'll my insurance company, I'll get when I go pick up a prescription or whatnot, a month later, I have a check that comes in the mail for 42 cents and then another one for 16 cents. And I'm just like, why even
The cost of the check and
the
printing
cost
and
of the
mailing
check and
and
mailing it when
stamp.
you
Yeah.
could just direct deposit it to
Right.
where I'm
Right.
making the payment to you already, just
Or
set up
credit it to the premium or something to where,
something
yeah,
to avoid all of, I mean, it's just
it's wild.
baffling.
It's
But
wild.
so I'm sure leading a team has its challenges. What's your leadership style? And can you give us an example of how it helped you through a tough spot?
I would say that I really believe in being a collaborative leader. You know, when you have a dynamic with a team where there is an expectation that leaders are going to lead and kind of tell people what to do, right? Or or kind of sit back in an ivory tower and shout orders to people. Like, that is not the type of leader that I aspire to be. I think the best, I don't know if you've ever seen that cartoon where it's like, the leader in a chariot with the team kind of in front, and one's like cracking the whip. Like, that's not a real leader. The real leader is the one that's in the front lines helping to drive the carriage forward, right? And I saw that reference kind of early in my career, and that's kind of what I have always aspired to be. I'm a passionate advocate for my team members. So, if one of my team members is having a tough moment, or they're in a conflict or something, I am right next to them, advocating for them and ensuring that they are respected, treated fairly. And so I think even in entrepreneurial life, right? Like, the three of us have a great working relationship. I think, brainstorm really beautifully together. We get through tough moments where we're like, oh man, we see this roadblock, or, this potential pushback, and how do we fight through it? And all three of us are leaders. There's not one of us that is more of a leader over the other. But I think, my style is to help ensure that everybody is seen and heard, right? And ensure that we're all listening to each other, because when you're disconnected from processes and you're trying to make decisions for those people that are on the front lines, if you're not part of that process, it's really hard for you to make good decisions for your team, right? So I think that's kind of the leader that one that builds trust and earns trust from their team, by getting right in the middle of it, if that's what it takes to understand what's happening and to help kind of come up with a solution.
Sure. And then, so when you're building your dream team, what's the one trait you always look for, and why?
Grit for sure. I think
Absolutely.
that, you've got to be driven. You've got to have this really, especially on the entrepreneurial side, right? Like, we're building this from scratch. We started by bootstrapping. We've been really fortunate to have angel investors so far that really believe in us and see our vision. But I think it's that drive, it's that hunger, it's that, like, I will do whatever it takes to get it done. We will talk to anybody. We will have meetings with everybody. We will keep iterating. We really talk to we're, obviously pretty early stage still, and we're in pilot phase and have some amazing partners in our pilot. Interestingly, in orthopedics, which is what it sounds like your previous guest was in orthopedics. And we listen to them. That's our most important thing, right? We want to have meetings. We want to listen. How is it working? What's not working? What would be better? What problems are you still having that we're not fixing? And so I think it's good listeners, grit, and like that relentless pursuit of, like, maybe perfection is probably a bad word to use, but like success, and just continuing to drive and push forward.
Yeah, to have that persistence and resilience.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, it is a form of perfection in order to be successful and to get it going. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah, perfectionism can be a trap. And I think that's one of the things that I've learned early on this journey with entrepreneurial life, is that perfection is the enemy of good, right? And sometimes when perfection is your aspiration, it can hold you back. And sometimes, especially on the startup journey, like, you just got to go. And you can make it perfect as you go. And that can still be your goal. But if you wait for perfect, the whole thing can fly by you, right? So
Absolutely.
Lots of learning, lots of
Yeah, that's for sure. It's a lot of trial and error, and just
absolutely.
It's like a science experiment. You might mix this, and it's kind of like baking. Like, I find baking so tedious, because it's like you put
precise
one little measurement more, like a thimble of baking soda. It's just it's not gonna rise, or it's gonna go flat, it's gonna be dense.
And if it's too much, the whole thing can flop.
Right, exactly. And then you're like, now we got to start all over again. So it's finding that like, just fine tuning it just right,
Yeah.
to get that engine moving and to be consistently moving.
Right. And you can't be afraid to fail, because if you're afraid to
Yeah.
fail, you're going to be just paralyzed. Right. And
Yeah.
so there's a lot of things, that kind of in this frame shift in my career right now where, I've always been used to like the expectation in medicine, right? Like we don't have an expectation in medicine that when you're taking care of patients that like good is good enough, right? Like we want the best treatment, the best
Sure.
testing, the best care. And perfectionism almost, even though I don't know how you would define perfection in medicine, but you know what I mean? Like the expectation is way up here. Like we don't want
Yeah.
docs or nurses or respiratory therapists that are like, I mean, I'm good enough with like 50, we can't do that.
Right.
But that's been one of the biggest shifts for me into startup life is sometimes you can't wait for perfection. You've just got to iterate. You've got to get through your sprints. You've got to keep moving. You've got to keep talking to people. So that's been it's been a real big frame shift for me, but it's been exciting. So
Yeah, it's literally like I mean I call entrepreneurship kind of like when you have your first child and they're at like 1 years old and they're starting to run around and get into everything. Then two gets even more curious, and it just becomes a full contact sport, at all
yeah,
times. And that's what entrepreneurship
it's
is.
true.
It's
That's
literally
a great analogy. It's like
it's all
wrangling a
yeah.
toddler at all times,
At all times, at
basically.
all times. It's too funny. So, how do you encourage your team to think outside the box and bring new ideas to the table?
Oh man. We actually just did this last week where we were kind of like at a sticky point. It wasn't like bad or anything crazy, but I think we do a really good job when we're feeling something sticky that we pull together and we'll, whether we hop on a Zoom call or whatever, and we just start talking. And, some days it's, our CTO Alex that like comes up with this brilliant idea. Sometimes it's Ralph, sometimes it's me. But I think we all are good listeners. And I think that's key because, we really encourage each other. Like there's no one discourages ideas, even if there may be crappy ideas. You got to get through those crappy ideas until you get to the idea that hits, right? And that lands. So I think we just kind of keep talking and we keep talking until we feel better about where we are, right? Because those sticky moments can be critical for growth and for idea development. So I'm really proud of how we have continued to kind of fight through those moments. And rather than sometimes, people's tendencies can be, oh, when something feels off, you pull back, right? Or you get frustrated or you dig in. But I think I'm really proud of our team. We are really good at pushing through those moments to make sure that we're on the same page. Because sometimes when you feel like you're kind of out of sync, that can be tough.
Sure.
But
Sure,
we
yeah.
just keep talking and listening. And I think we all do that really well,
And
which
that's the
I'm very
key.
grateful for.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the key to a great partnership because,
Right.
when you're in those frustrating moments and you can't seem to articulate yourself and get your thought across, and the other person, is just thinking about wanting to get their thought out, not even listening to your
Right.
thought. And then all of a sudden it's like you've got a couple people that are getting defensive rather than,
Yeah,
just
for sure.
letting loose and just saying, okay, I can hear what you're saying. I like that, but how about this? We
Yeah.
add this or something. So that's great that you guys are figuring out your, how to be respectful to one another and encourage
Yes,
one another. So that's
for
fantastic.
sure.
Um, so I love this question. So what does a day in your life look like, and how do you juggle work and everything else? So walk us through
Oh
your day.
man, so I'm a single mom. I've got an incredibly brilliant, intelligent, handsome 12-year-old son who is an avid basketball player. And in the thick of middle school. And then I have my, day job at the hospital, day job, I should say, my job at the hospital because I also work nights and weekends. Like this weekend I work all day, Saturday and Sunday. Sometimes I work night shifts and have to work overnight in the hospital. And then there's, the entrepreneurial side where I am finding my way in how do I navigate trying to do right. Like many of us, we wear many
Yeah.
hats, we're juggling many things. I have found that for me, some of the strategies that I use, right, like is I'm a visual person. So on Sundays, I usually, even though I have electronic calendars in my phone, obviously, right, where you sync all your calendars and you can see what's happening. To me, it helps me organize if I write it out so that
Sure.
I can look at my week on paper rather than just day by day. And then I have my to-do list that I start to generate for that whole week. And I'm making sure that none of my meetings are overlapping, that I'm trying to get more effective in blocking time in my calendar so that I have, a lot of the entrepreneurial things I'm doing obviously are after hours, kind of outside of what I'm doing at the hospital. So for me, it could be anything from waking up in the morning, taking my son to school, trying to grab a quick workout if I can, and then hit my day with meetings, hospital meetings if I don't have a shift that day, and trying to balance all of those meetings and requirements. If I do have spots that I'm slipping in other meetings, for the company, and then go pick up my son. And then it's usually trailing behind him for basketball. So practice, tournaments, all, workouts, all that fun stuff. And then, come home and one of our favorite things to do together is cook together. That's kind of our bonding moment. So still trying to make sure that I'm prioritizing my relationship with him above everything. Trying to make sure we sit down and eat together. That's really important for me so that we can spend some
Sure.
time together. If you know teenagers, you know that obviously like sharing and talking is not their strength. So
Yes.
even if I'm not forcing conversations, it's more just letting him know that I'm present, I'm listening, I'm engaged, I'm prioritizing him. Putting my phone down is during that time is really key because it's so easy to get sucked into emails and alerts and notifications and all that stuff.
Yes.
And I'm really trying to make sure that he knows and sees that because more than anything, right? He's first for me and family and the rest will have to work its way around that.
That's yeah, and it sounds, it can be complicated, but if you've got it like a groove and a rhythm going, then it
Right.
goes together. And I have three teenagers, two girls and a boy,
Oh,
um and I remember that age, in middle school, and they're going through hormones,
oh
hormonal
man.
changes, and they have interesting scents, and especially the boys, and like they're just going through stuff, and they're
Listen.
I call that age like anything you say could set them off. It's
Oh yeah.
to the point where
Yeah.
my analogy is they're like a rescued three-legged inbred chihuahua that is in a pool swimming in circles, and just barking, barking, barking at every little thing. So I
It's a
feel you.
trip,
I
man.
feel you, but it does
As
get
a
better. It does
Yeah,
get better.
okay, well, that's good. I appreciate that. I
Yeah.
was going to say, as a pediatrician, even before I had my son, I have always been, I'm just going to be honest, terrified of teenagers. And so in middle school,
For
to
good reason.
me, and right, in my professional experience, right, prior to even having my own, that age group was always where I would see the most stressors and the most terrifying choices kind of emerge. And so I have been slightly terrified of this age group. I will say my son is a great kid. I'm really grateful for that. But I was giggling when you said the smells because, like, coming home from basketball practice now, it's like, bro, like, we got to roll down the windows. Like, what is happening? Can you keep your shoes on for sure? Because it's a
It,
lot.
it is. It's like barn animals. I'm like, God,
Yeah.
oh, my God, did you shower? It's like, yes, 10
Too funny.
times.
Right.
Too funny. So has there been a book, a podcast, or someone that's really changed your outlook or approach? Excuse me.
Oh, that's such a good question. Um, I think for me, what I have gotten the most out of like even Brene Brown, Dare to Lead, right? I read that book many years ago, way before I even conceptualized, shifting and going into entrepreneurial life. And I read it at a really difficult time in my life. And even though it's kind of like this more leadership and, I think the way that she was able to kind of inspire me, even with analogies, right? That maybe were meant for certain situations, but applied to my personal life really helped me gain clarity in what I needed, what I would expect from others and kind of demand from others in terms of how to treat me and how I was willing to be, what I was willing to tolerate and not tolerate. Right? Integrity is choosing courage over comfort. That quote from that book kind of rocked me a little bit, right? Where it's like doing what is right is sometimes the harder thing and the more challenging thing and the yuckier thing, because sometimes it can be really easy to just say yes, right? And go with the flow because it reduces friction, there's less conflict. But if at the end of the day that leaves you feeling off or unfulfilled or disrespected, then that's not the right answer. So I think I would definitely say probably that book it really rocked me, but in a really positive way. And I think I have built my life from that quote kind of moving forward has been kind of a revolution for me personally and professionally.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful quote there. So how do you tackle learning new things, especially stuff that's way outside of your comfort zone?
Oh, like being an entrepreneur.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm one of those that when I am challenged, like even in the hospital, when I stepped into the role of utilization management, I felt like I needed to absorb and learn, right? And try to study. I felt like I was a student forever, right? When you go med school, residency, all that stuff, you're a constant student. And in healthcare and being a physician, you have to constantly learn, because if you don't, you are obsolete really quickly. So constantly learning is part of who I am, because I have to be, right? But so I definitely try to find, what can I read? What can I study? Who can I follow, right? There's so many tools at our disposal these days that even 10 years ago weren't. So for me, like in this new venture, everything from following voices on like a LinkedIn where I see like their posts, their content kind of speaks to me in terms of what I'm trying to learn, and really using those resources all the way through books, right? On how to, how to speak effectively, how to tell stories effectively in sales. That's kind of one of the books on my nightstand right now. Conferences, right? Going to conferences, going to webinars. Like I feel like right now I'm kind of grabbing at anything that looks relevant and trying to consume as much as possible, because I definitely believe that the more information that you have, the better. Because then it really helps you critically weed out, well, what of that information is actually helpful? What of it do I take and modify? But if you're not willing to kind of constantly learn from others, then I think you're placing yourself in a disadvantage if you're really relying on the assumption that you can figure it out.
Which is not.
Podcasts, masterclass. I've got a smattering of them all.
Yeah, I have masterclass as well.
Yeah.
It's just it's hearing other people's experience and perspective.
Right.
And,
learning from their failures just as much as from their successes, I think, is critical.
Oh, absolutely, because it's without failure, you can't succeed.
Absolutely.
Not possible. Like nobody just goes in and says, "Oh my gosh, I rocked it," and I just
from day one
for millions, and I never had any failures. It's like Yeah, not
Yeah.
possible. No way.
Right. Like masterclass, like listening to Mark Cuban and, there are so many voices out there that are, Alexis Ohanian, like there's a lot of voices out there that are willing to share their knowledge and willing to share their successes and their failures. And I appreciate that because it does feel like, okay, if I can hear something that they did that didn't work well or why it didn't work well, then maybe that helps me, avoid that similar mistake.
Sure, sure.
So
Yeah, absolutely. So, well, it sounds like things are going well for you and your business. So,
yeah,
as
we're
we're looking,
trying.
yeah, I mean, you're hustling and grinding and just
Yep.
the day to day.
Yep.
So, as you're looking towards the future, I was wondering if or how you create passive income or if you've ever invested in the past.
Oh, yes. All of those things. So, you know, one thing that I'm grateful for when I was in residency, I attended University of South Florida for my residency training in pediatrics. And at the time, I was very annoyed by it, but they forced us to kind of start contributing to like a 401k. And right, like when you're just starting out, it was like the first time you're actually being paid rather than paying to go to school. And you're like,
Right.
man, I want that paycheck, right? And you're frustrated that they're like withholding money and kind of forcing you to do that. But I'm so grateful because that started the foundation for me in like being very responsible and trying to always max out contributions. So like those kind of very traditional things, right? I work with an amazing financial advisor who is a good friend, and he has helped me with kind of those strategies. And I obviously trust him a lot in what he does. I have a little real estate situation, going on where hoping that, in time that becomes a source of passive income for me. And really trying to find the right balance of being smart, thinking about the future, but also living today. Like I love to travel. My son and I love to go take trips together. And so making sure that, I don't get so fixated on saving that I'm not enjoying and being present in the
Sure.
moment now. But yeah, the passive income is definitely I have that and another side business that I have worked on another passion project that I developed that is a co-parenting app that I developed actually with our CTO as well. Just both living out of frustrated co-parenting journeys and
Yes.
kind of how do we improve communication? How do we make that easier? Like it doesn't, how do we de-escalate kind of a lot of the conflict and help prepare parents that are in the kind of nitty-gritty of the family court system. So we built an app called the Parent Pro that's on all of the platforms to kind of download and use. And so that's like another we didn't really build that as much for income, but right, that was more just to kind of solve a personal pain point and then to share what was built with
Sure.
others. So, diversifying all the different strategies, trying to be smart, but still enjoy the present.
Absolutely. So, as we're wrapping up our interview, what exciting plans or initiatives do you have in the works for the next 6 months? So,
Oh man, I think I am head down focused and trying to really move this company from pilot, right, and validation into scale. And so we've got this regulatory tailwind, we've got this major pain point that we're trying to help solve in healthcare. And it's really, I think, for us trying to get our product into as many hands as possible. Because from early feedback we've received, we know that this really helps reduce teams, reduce friction for them, reduce burnout, reduce frustration, improve access to care for patients. So we're really trying to identify, the best strategies to where we can just let people try our product so that they can see how helpful it can be, and really try to just get it in as many hands as possible so that we can kind of help this system move forward and modernize.
and that's absolutely exciting, and it's definitely needed. And there's several doctors that have been talking about the challenges with the protocol of the insurance companies and
Yeah.
helping their patients, and
Yeah.
how to make it less complicated and just
Right.
it's a piece of paper that just needs to be approved. Here's their
Yeah.
records. Here's their history. It's that
Right.
simple. It
Yeah.
doesn't need to be so dated and just pushing papers around to
Yeah.
20 different people. So
Agreed.
yeah, it's going to be exciting to see what comes of this. So
Yeah.
definitely going to need
Thank
to
you.
have you come back on and share the outcome, the
Oh,
full
awesome. I'd
outcome
love
of
to.
it. Well, thank you so much for coming on today and taking the time to share your
Absolutely.
story. If anyone wanted to get a hold of you or wanted to be a part of
Oh,
this,
yes.
and how does one get a hold of you?
Perfect. So we are on the web. We're www.easy, so EASY, and then PA, like for prior authorization, .ai. And then you are welcome to email me directly. So my first name, Paola, my last name, Ballester, Ballester, at easypa.ai. I would love to chat with anybody that's interested in trying the product and learning more and collaborating, partner channels, all that good stuff. So please feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for coming on, Paola. And thanks.
Thank you.
And
Nice to meet you. Thanks for having me.
yeah, absolutely. It was very nice to meet you. I enjoyed our conversation. And thanks
Me
for
too.
tuning in, guys. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.